Hey, it's relatively easy to tell the year on most Gibson guitars that you get your hands on, but that wouldn't really make for a very interesting video. In this video, I'm going to go over how to tell the year on a Gibson guitar, so be sure and watch through the whole thing. Let's start with 1975 to 1977. During these years, the serial number is found on the back of the headstock with an 8-digit number. This number can be dated with the first and the second digits just like this. 99 corresponds to 1975, 00 corresponds to 1976, and 06 corresponds to 1977, not 01, which you would expect it to be. Then in 1977, Gibson started to use the serial number identification code system that we still use today for Gibson USA, Gibson Acoustic, and Gibson Custom. Good, because organization is always good. At least that's what my mother used to tell me. The serial number will be an 8-digit serial number stamped on the back of the headstock with Made in USA stamped directly below. Directly from their website, the pattern is as follows. Y, D, 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 Y, R, R, R. The Y's correspond to the production year, the D's correspond to the date of the year, and the R's correspond to the factory ranking specification, so which number in line that day. Prior to 1984, the numbers 001 to 499 indicate that the guitar was manufactured in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Ranking numbers 500 to 999 equate to the guitar being manufactured in Nashville. Some Nashville production for you. Let me give you a quick example. Again, straight from their website. Serial number stating 701-08276 means the instrument was produced on January 10th in 1978 in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and it was the 276th instrument stamped that day. It's important to note that Gibson does go to a 9-digit serial number identification system in early 2005. The new number added, which is the 6th number, is the batch number. The batch starts at the start of the day, and once they reach number 699, the batch number will go to 1, starting a new batch all over again. It's a good way for them to keep track of how many they're putting through. The first 5 numbers will remain the same, the last 3 numbers will remain the same, the only difference is that batch number. Of course, there are exceptions to the law of Gibson identification systems, and they are as follows. The Gibson Les Paul Classic from 1989 to 2014. This model has an ink stamped serial number with no Made in USA on the back, just like it was from 1952 to 1960. Most will be 5 to 6 digits in length, but the earliest models on these are 4 digits, which is pretty wild. Now, important and confusing. Gibson USA from 2014 to Gibson USA 2019. New models typically launch in the fall of the current year as the current production model starts to wind down. It's not that uncommon for a new model to have been made that current year in the fall, come out the next year. So maybe like a 2015 could come out late 2014. And I have actually seen this myself. The pattern is as follows. Y, Y, R, 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 R. Y is, of course, the model year in this instance, and the R's are the number in the product line starting as 0000001. Probably shouldn't have used digits to count that. 000000001. Or wait, now I'm gone confused. So from 2019 to today. In 2019, Gibson reverted to its post-2005 scheme of dating guitars, which goes as follows. Y, D, 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 Y, R, R, R. Y, again, is the production year. D is the day of the year. It's why there are 3 Ds. And R is the factory ranking, beginning with 0001. Now, let's talk about Gibson Custom Shop. These have always confused me, and I think they've confused a lot of people because they're not your typical way of identifying a guitar unless you know how to read the serial number, and we're still learning, right? I'm still learning it all the time. 1952 to 1960 reissues, like the Les Paul Explorer, the Flying V, and this is since late 1992. The serial number will go M, Y, RRR. In this case, the M stands for the model that it is reissuing, the Y is then the year that the guitar was built, and the RRR is the factory ranking in which it was built, which number it was in line that it was manufactured. It's also important to note that this number includes all models for a particular reissue year. So, for example, a 1958 reissue serial number may include a 1958 reissue Les Paul Standard and a 58 production. A little bit confusing there. Example, if you had a serial number that goes 75123, it would be the 123rd 1957 reissue model produced in 2005. Custom shop regular production models can also say CS at the start of the serial number. Of course, the CS stands for custom shop. In the custom shop serial numbers, the Y again stands for the production year. It always stands for the production year. That's what Y means. The R's again represent the number and the series of production that it was manufactured. Now here's a special note on signature guitar models. Signature models will often include letters from the name of the artist. So if you had a Tony Iommi SG or custom shop piece, it will say TI and then the serial number. If you had a Joe Perry custom shop, it will say JP and then the serial number. Ace Frehley would say Ace, Slash would say SL, and etc, etc. They use this code to let you know which artist model it's going to be. You can kind of deduce from the initials which artist model it is. Of course, you probably already know that if you bought one of their guitars. Okay, now for the hardest part of dating Gibson guitars. We're gonna be talking about vintage. But before we do, please take a second to like and sub to my channel, as it would help me out tremendously, especially if you have learned something today. As a bonus, here is a picture of my weird looking dog. Okay, remember how I talked about how important organization is at the start of the video? Well, this is exactly why I talked about that. Vintage guitars can get very, very confusing. The number schemes have changed several times from the 1950s to the 1960s to the 1970s. Let's start at 1952. From 1952 until 1960, Gibson used a 5-digit ink stamped serial number on the back of the headstock. The first digit is going to indicate the year that it was manufactured. So if a serial number is 5XXX, that is representing a 1955 Les Paul. Another example, 8XXXXX would be a 1958 Gibson Les Paul. And if you have one of those, congratulations, you have a legendary guitar. You win the game of guitars.
Good for you.
Gibson has a 6-digit or less die-stamped serial number on the back of the headstock from guitars from 1961 to 1975. If your guitar has 6 digits and made in USA stamped below, the guitar was most likely made between 1969 and 1975. Unfortunately, during this time, Gibson reused serial numbers, so it can get super confusing trying to date guitars in this method. Although it does help narrow it down. Like I just said, some of the serial numbers were reused, but a true-fire way to actually be able to tell the date of the guitar is to check the date of the potentiometers. If you want to see a video on how to check the date of potentiometers, let me know in the comments and we can chat a little bit about that, but that's a video for another time. Of course, if the potentiometer was changed out, well, then we're gonna be out of luck in that sense. So real quick, here's a 1960 Les Paul cheat sheet for serial numbers. 0100 to 42440 would correspond to a 1961. 42441 to 61180 corresponds to a 1962. 61450 to 64222 is a 1963. 64240 to 71040 would be a 1964. 71041 to 96600 would be a 1962, 63, or a 64. 96601 to 99999 would be a 1963. One more important thing that I can think of in this video that should be mentioned is Gibson has always done custom special orders. So it may be possible that some Les Pauls were made even in the years that Les Pauls shouldn't have been made if it was a special order, though I am not 100%. So if anybody knows about that kind of stuff, please let me know in the comments, because it is absolutely fascinating to me and it might help somebody else learn about it. So if you're looking for a guitar from your birth year, that's one thing, especially if you find it. That is very cool. But if you want to be a real guitar boss, what you need is to find a guitar from your birth year, from the exact day that you were born, and the first model and the sequence. Now that would be the real deal. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name's Cliffhanger. If you enjoyed this video or learned anything, please give me a like and a subscribe, and let's chat in the comments. I'd love to chat with you more. And until the next time that I see ya, peace.